So, I'm just asking you, both of you, how can we define social security as a girl or a woman for a society? Betska.
All right, thank you. Great topic, Raj, and one that is very dear to my heart. And while there are many ways to define social security, I'm going to discuss two, two of them that I think are the most important. Number one, of course, is financial independence, to be able
Mhm.
to have an education of some kind, a skill, so that if something happens, we can go out and get a job and support ourselves. For example, one of my clients, her best friend, a male, died from COVID, and his wife has a grade 10 education and no skills, no job experience, and now she has to support herself and her child. And of course, we see that globally. I'm just using that as an example because that just comes to my mind. So, preparing our children from a young age, whether they're boys or girls, preparing them to be financially independent. We had our daughter start her own company when she was 13. She was making Ukrainian pierogies, you know, those little triangles stuffed with
Yeah.
potatoes. And oh my God, they're so delicious. And she was making chocolate cakes, you know, with icing on top and decorations and the most magnificent carrot cake. She was always sold out, and she paid her way to go to Europe. Because we said,
Mhm.
no, if you want to go to Europe with your school, you need to pay for it yourself, several $1,000s. So, you know, her dad taught her all profit and loss statements and costs and la, la, la. And so she learned from a very young age to be financially independent. So that's number one. And perhaps even more important than that is emotional security, emotional independence, to raise our women and raise our girls from a very young age, and nurture the younger women too, to be very self-confident, to really believe in their hearts that they can do anything they want to do. If they want to be the Prime Minister of Canada, go for it, you know? To have that confidence to go out and get whatever education they need, or whatever they want to do, to write books, to make podcasts, to speak in front of people. That emotional independence is so important. You know, we have people say to me, well, Betska, how can you go on and do podcasts? How can you write books? And I say, it's natural. It's just there. And they find it even when they're very, very educated and they're making lots of money, they don't have that self confidence to go in front of a camera or to write a book or to write poetry. Or so there's a lot in that topic of emotional and spiritual independence. What do you think, Marion?
Yeah, that's interesting, Betska, because I think what you spoke to, the both the financial independence as well as the emotional independence, and I was just thinking about this in my own experience, because I think it goes back to the point of equality, right? It goes back to that point of the financial scenario that we often connect with a gender, right, or different roles that we take on. So, you know, for example, you are married, and oftentimes it's the husband that may have the bigger income, and if that is the other way around, it raises eyebrows, and for various reasons. And I would imagine that's at times not easy for the husband either, to be considered the breadwinner and the strong gender, and then having to admit, or having society in a way, you know, giving less meaning to the fact that perhaps it's a stay-at-home dad. And I've seen those examples as well. And of course, you have those less, than you have the women, in my experience, that then take that second role in financial, um, you know, abundance, or even just security overall. And so I think when we are starting with a concept of equality, that say, for example, even when you are a couple, perhaps, and that's been true in my own relationship, where there were times where my husband took the lead. And I remember going for interviews 7 months pregnant and wondering why nobody wanted to hire me. And I would go and I would be dressed up and I had like the fluffy shirt on, and here I was confident with my education and my experience, and I was crushed when I came back from the interview and I didn't
Yeah.
get the job. I didn't even think in terms of, of course they looked more at my belly than they did at my resume. But the fact was, I was in a situation at that time where we were relying on my husband's salary. We were in another situation where my salary was the main salary. And so it's to me, it comes back to that equality, where a team, and we talked about that last time, sometimes perhaps it's him, another time it's her. And that, at the end of the day, then it is a true partnership, in my opinion, when that is the foundation. But unfortunately, in many cultures and in many families, or in society generally, that is not necessarily the case. So for me, I feel like that's where we need to get to, the steps we need to take, each one of us. And raising 4 girls in our case, that is, to your point, I love your story, because that the kids picked that up. And we had our daughter stand at the street in front of the house. She made bracelets for $1 out of paper, and this man drove by and he put the reverse, and he came back and he actually bought this paper bracelet for $1, and she was thrilled. She couldn't have been more thrilled. She's like, I made $1. It was amazing to see. And here she put it into her little piggy bank, to save up. But those are the things that yes, to your point, it's that financial independence, it's the emotional independence to feel I can do it. But whether or not I choose to may be a different question.
Your story makes me think of another story, and this is one of we have students who come from around the world to learn how to be executive and life coaches. And one of our leaders from Romania had 3 boys and, two boys, and she had a 3rd boy. And we'd be on the call. She's learning how to be an executive and life coach, right? And we hear these little noises in the background. She was breastfeeding her baby while she was taking the course. So my point is, women are incredibly resilient. I mean, we can walk and chew gum. We can, carry our baby on our back or on our belly, and we can make dinner. We can garden. We can, we are multitaskers, and I think that needs to really be celebrated.
It does. It does. And at the same time, I also feel that when men or husbands take on some of these roles as important role models, it should be less stigmatized of less acceptance. Nobody is surprised if you're on a Zoom call and you might have a child on your lap. Even advertising, I see a ton of advertisements now where it's the woman, she's in front of the computer, she has a child sitting on her lap, right? But why could that not be the husband?
That's right. Exactly. Good point.
Right? I know for a fact that homeschooling children, sometimes there's something and they come in, and that could be my office, it could be my husband's office, but you don't usually see that. And that's where the society, in my opinion, comes back in, where we say, at the end of the day, we make the rules, we shape a society, and we pick up on certain things. So why can we not start shaping that into more of an equal scenario, where we also acknowledge and give credit to those dads that are doing that multitasking?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And perhaps take out the judgment when we are seeing women that are committed to, say, a meeting, and sorry, Raj, to interrupt you here, but that's where an example of my life comes through, where somebody would say, well, how selfish of you that you are not there for dinner and bedtime. Well, they didn't say that to my husband when he was traveling or when was something going on. Well, why is that selfish of me? I have responsibilities at home and outside of the home. And of course, if it's an emergency, but he is just as fine with them as I am with them. So it's how we perceive things, how we at times get pushed into these models that perhaps should be a thing of the past.
So, you know what I'm hearing us say is that we've defined Social Security for girls and women as financial independence, as emotional independence, and equality, right? Which is what Marion's just been talking about. So, Raj, what's your impression of this topic?